We are currently being joined by Miss Kathleen Kennedy, Gareth Edwards, Diego Luna, Alan Tudyk, Donnie Yen, and John Knoll. Good morning. Hi, guys.
Good morning. Good morning.
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 So we've talked quite a bit about how you've been a Star Wars fan pretty much your whole life. So the lead up to Rogue One has been a pretty long road. Now that people are seeing the movie and you're getting feedback, how do you feel?
It's strange. Obviously, this is a very strange period in making a film. This little moment here, because for about 2.5 years you're really busy making it and your head's down and you can't really think about anything else. And now we've finished the movie, but we haven't released it. I feel like we're a little bit pregnant, and the due date is we're just ready to give birth and like share it with the world.
My water broke.
Sorry, please. Sorry.
Yeah, you're just like right on the cusp of it.
Yeah, it's kind of frustrating in a weird way to not be able to just show you all the movie now, because the cast got to see it for the first time 2 days ago, and well, I let them speak about it, but it went down very well, I think.
That's awesome.
Fantastic. Yeah.
Well, here. Hi. Could you just talk about, in finding this character, was it all on the script, or did you go back and look at other Star Wars films to sort of figure out where your kind of character fits into the hierarchy, or was it just all there for you once you read the story?
It was a mixture of everything. But at the beginning, yes, I started just with the script that was already interesting enough for me to kind of dig into myself and try to find this captain inside me. And I guess the most important part was to do the military training, you know. You have to establish a parallel to, with this galaxy far, far away and the world you live in. And it was very interesting to be. I spent 2 weeks with this ex-military in London, just talking about experiences and about the last 10 or 15 years of his life, and that gave me enough material. And then, I mean, I love Star Wars and I love the films, and A New Hope is probably the first film I really connected with. So I would go back to that film to find a connection again. But it was more about seeing war films, Apocalypse Now, for example, stuff like that, because my character needs that kind of military structure, and is a guy that is willing to risk anything for this cause, But he thinks in a hierarchical kind of a structure, and he has to start there, at least in this film. So yeah, that was the research I did.
Hi guys, Lucas Eagle from comicbook.com. Donnie, I have a question for you. I'm right up front here, Donnie. I have a question for you, Donnie. How much of obviously the Force is very much derived from Eastern philosophy. How much of your study of martial arts helped you develop your relationship with the Force as Chirrut Îmwe?
Well, that's a good question, but I never thought about relating to the martial arts. I always think of the Force. We all have the Force. It's just we don't realize it. It's kind of like I think it's interesting to see. To me, Star Wars story is about reminding us that things that we neglect and forget, and the Force is all, we always have these kind of ability, and. To answer your questions, I don't think of it as having the martial arts ability. It's just being a human being. You do have the Force.
Question for Gareth. It's been revealed that George Lucas came to the set of this. What's it like to have George on set? And has he seen any footage yet? Does he have plans to see?
Can I?
Yeah, I think he's okay with.
So 2 days ago, we got to show George the movie, and we all had a phone call, and I got to speak with him yesterday, and I don't want to put words into his mouth, but I can honestly say that I can die happy now. He really liked the movie, so it meant a lot. To be honest, and no offense to anyone here, it was the most important review to me, was what George thought of it. You know, you guys are important too, but come on. He's kind of God when it comes to Star Wars. What's that?
It's gotta be the wildest phone call, though. I mean,
Yeah, it was. We're in the middle of doing press, and you know, you have one interview, another interview, and then suddenly they said, we need to take a break. And I was like, I'm okay. And it's like, no, we need to take a break. And then they go, we need to talk to you. We're going to just go out of the room. And it's like, what's going on? Something bad's happened? And we go into a room, they say, George wants to speak to you. And they made the call, and I was like, And yeah, and I will take that conversation to my grave. It was a real privilege, and he you know, his opinion means the world to me. So, and John and Kathy have spoke to him. So, yeah.
Hi, I'm Maggie Lyons from Amy Poehler's Smart Girls back here. This is a question for Kathy, sort of a follow-up on the last question. In terms of women specifically and gender, so what do you think the future of women in Star Wars could mean for women in media and the world at large, and why is it important to you to foster that
first
change?
of all, I hope it has that level of impact. That would be great. You know, I think it is really important. I found it really interesting when I first stepped into this job and I started to look at, you know, what does it mean to be a female hero, a female heroine? And when you started to look, certainly online, at imagery, it was pretty shocking what came up. And I think the character of Rey, the character of Jyn, I think these are empowered women that are not necessarily just taking on male characteristics. They're genuinely female heroines. And I think that's really important to the way we tell stories. And so I do hope you're right. I think it will make a difference.
Thank you.
Jerome Maida, Philadelphia Daily News. I have a two-part question. One is for Gareth. I just want to say, from the footage I saw, tremendous accomplishment. What was your challenge, you think, because the tone on this is so much different from other Star Wars films? It's more a war movie and heist movie, as they say. And how do you have that different tone so you get something different but still feel like Star Wars? What's the challenge with that? And for Kathy, follow-up question a lot of people ask is, one of the things that slightly annoys me when people bring up, oh, you have a female lead, it's as if we've never had a strong female character before. From Bette Davis to Katniss Everdeen, there's been a lot of strong female characters, which, how do you feel about that? And how do you feel that, I just feel that, from what I've seen, she has an opportunity to be one of the most memorable characters, period, that we've seen?
Yeah, the tone was, we essentially got a license to be different on this movie and take a risk. The great thing about being a standalone film, we don't really have to exist for other movies to continue, etc. And so we could be brave, and that's what we did. And I feel like in terms of Star Wars is that I love tonally. I guess the one we were aiming for was something like Empire Strikes Back. Where our movie, even though we take it quite seriously, there's a lot of fun and humor in it, and hope, is the key thing, is that it's about trying to achieve something. The story really behind the movie is all these different people from all these different backgrounds that have very little in common. If they believe in a good, future for the world, they come together and we all are better off when we work together than on our own. And so we just tried to make the most realistic version of Star Wars that we'd seen, and it involved a lot of different techniques, but I can't even remember Kathy's question.
I can remember.
You can remember it.
So I think you're absolutely right. I find that it is a bit irritating that when there's progress being made and strong female characters being created, it tends to be forgotten. And I think that's because long periods of time go on in between. But I think it speaks to what I was talking about before, which is these are big tentpole, sort of frankly male-driven, boy-driven kinds of entertainment in the past. And that's why I was saying that I think the idea of a female hero is what's new. I think that heroine concept is what's been lacking. And I think in this movie, the irony is she's not, as you say, necessarily just a female hero. She's just a very strong, wonderful character in a movie. And to highlight that as being something specific to being a woman, I agree. I think that's what I hope disappears over time, that we're not constantly highlighting this as though it's something unusual, but that it actually just becomes the vernacular of storytelling.
My name is Brian Young. I'm asking about the footage last night. There seemed to be a moral complexity to the universe there, whether that's Cassian doing things that maybe aren't the most heroic.
What do you mean?
Or even all the toy packaging for K2SO says that maybe he's trying to make up for something. I mean, he is an Imperial droid. I'm wondering if all of you could kind of speak to that moral gray area where Star Wars before always seemed to be very black and white about heroes and villains.
Diego, you've talked a lot about that.
Yeah, I think it's and it connects with hello. It's like censorship. Here's hello. I want to communicate to the world. Please let me. There we go. I think it's a modern approach to Star Wars, and we live in a different world today. You know, so if you revisit all the films, it's kind of like a stamp of what was going on and a reflection on the world back then. You know, and ours has to do the same. And we live in a diverse world where racial and cultural diversity is in fact making us richer and more interesting. And but it is a complex world we live in, and making the right choice many times looks horrible. You know, and these people are in war. You know, when you mention Cassian doing something not heroic, I would say no. Cassian it's a true hero, as Jean and everyone in this team. You know, it's just that they are the heroes we can be, just regular people doing amazing stuff. You know, and no special powers, no Jedis, no. It's just conviction and teamwork and yeah, that hope of actually being able to shape the reality we live in. And that makes them great, you know. But yes, they have to make choices on the way, and war is horrible. I mean, no one wants war to happen. None of these characters would choose war, you know. But it's the last chance, you know, and they have to do it.
So a lot of people think that K2 is strictly CG, but you were actually on set in like a mocap suit and stilts and stuff.
Yes.
What was that performance like? What was it like being on set with everyone who was in character and you're kind of removed from it a bit?
I got this, Diego, because he's going to give his opinion of it. Diego was very funny about certain aspects of my costume, let's say. I was wearing a full body, jumpsuit sort of thing, and it's such a new technology. Even still, we've been introduced to it in a lot of different ways. Sometimes people wear cameras on their head. Sometimes there's dots all over their face. They have balls all over their suit. The way that ILM did it, I wore a suit that was very comfortable. It didn't have all of that restriction on it. It was just had interesting designs on it, which
cool looking.
It was
really
very cool looking.
Oh, come on, dude.
Come on! It was like a luge costume from like the Italian team. Like it looked cool, and yeah, I mean it didn't have the colors, but still. And then I was on stilts, so I was 7'1", so I towered over everyone most of the time, and it was great. You know, just even at that height, it colors how you move, and it helped me get into character. It was fantastic. It was basic. It was basically just acting, but then. The makeup and the costume came later, but because you're on set, you are able to create a character with the other actors. Without that, you can't tell a story with the true character. who can react in a moment with some of the stuff Diego's throwing at you. You need to be able to throw it right back.
And Alan, I think you're shortchanging yourself a little bit too, because you stepped into amazing iconography with robots in Star Wars. And, you know, when you figure that C-3PO and R2-D2 and now BB-8, what was amazing about what Alan did is he had to find what that individual sense was so that he could create another robot in the family of robots in Star Wars, and I think he definitely did that. He's going to be very memorable.
I think John Knoll testified to this, is that there's a feeling, you can't help it because it's CGI, there's a feeling on set which is, you know, if we change our minds, if we want to change his performance a little bit, it's in the computer, maybe we can worry about that later.
You kept saying that
and
again and again. That's why
we shot the whole thing as if K2 was, whatever Alan did on set, whatever it was exactly what K2 was going to do in the final film. And so, you know, K2 would get, you know, when Alan, no offense, but would screw up a few times, and we'd do multiple takes, even though you're thinking, oh, can't you just animate this stuff? And you can't. And what we learned was on the very few occasions, there were times where we wanted to tweak something. We go, you know what, just maybe do something a little bit different to what Alan did. And every single time it didn't work. And we had to be true to Alan's performance all the time. And even when we wanted to tweak something, we got Alan back and we re-recorded him on film and copied his performance because he is K2. And a lot of the humor that's in the film that's really funny is just this guy improvising. He was given freedom to do whatever he wanted, whenever he wanted. And there are shots we couldn't use because sometimes I was holding the camera and I'm laughing and the camera's rocking up and down and there's stuff we can't even talk about, but it was hilarious.
I'll be on behind the